Hi, I'm Logan. This is my DSARI project, my dorm energy audit. So first we have some background and energy context. So I live in Frontier Hall in a double with one roommate. It's 187 square feet. And on average, dorm rooms use 18.9 kilowatt hours per year per square foot, which is 3,500 kilowatt hours per year, 9.35 kilowatt hours per day. A couple interesting graphs here. We have outdoor air temperature compared to energy usage in different types of dorm rooms. Shows here that as the number of rooms decrease, the energy increases. The number of dorm rooms, or the amount of dorm rooms in the US that have air conditioning is 62%, includes my dorm room. As you can see here, for most types of homes, air conditioning uses the most amount of energy, and we'll see how that affects the results later. So here's the average energy use in kilowatt hours per day of the different types of devices I'm measuring. We'll compare those to what I measured. So for the audit process, I have my overhead light, and then the rest were measured using the kilowatt meter. Here's a mini fridge, phone charging, the laptop charging, Apple Watch charging, the fan, which has phantom power, meaning that it uses power when it's not on, the desk lamp, microwave, same thing with phantom power, vacuum. I tracked my time using a stopwatch app on my phone to take the times of each device as I used them, and then that was put on this table I drew up, and then my roommate also had a table for the devices he was going to use, and then I put those together to make the daily use log, showing my time in total with all the devices and the average hours of those. Now for calculations, here is the calculations table here. Shows the constant power devices, meaning it uses the same amount of power off or on. Then the variable power devices, which changes power over time. So then we measured those using kilowatt hours over a certain amount of time, and then finding the average wattage and using that to calculate kilowatt hours per day and kilowatt hours per month for both, and to get the total. So an example of a constant power device calculation, we have my desk lamp, 3.7 watts for 2.32 hours, gave us 8.58 watt hours per day. And then when you divide that by 1,000, you get the kilowatt hours per day for that device. Next, we have the mini fridge, which is our variable power. So I measured 0.59 kilowatt hours over 26 hours of measuring to get an average of that kilowatts. And then the average kilowatts times the power used per day, which is 24 hours for the fridge, gave us 0.470 kilowatt hours per day. Lastly, the light. This is a fluorescent light that I don't have access to, so we're assuming that it's 20 watts. It's on for an average power of, or an average time of 8.77 hours per day to get our watt hours per day. Once again, dividing that by 1,000 to get the kilowatt hours per day. So what I learned from this, highest energy users was the fan, which kind of surprised me. I didn't realize how much a fan actually uses. It is on for 24 hours a day, so it doesn't make sense that it was rather high, but it was more than double the mini fridge. That was surprising to me. Laptop was also up there. I use it a lot for school. Some low energy users, Apple Watch and the vacuum were very low, as well as the lamp. I wasn't expecting the Apple Watch to be quite so low, especially because I plug it in overnight, but it is a small battery. So some interesting elements. The fan is the highest, makes sense. It's on a lot, but it's also a lot more than I expected. Laptop is a good amount of energy use. I have a gaming laptop, which uses a little more energy. And the phone and watch being really low was surprising to me as well. I was expecting it to be higher. So comparing our averages or our totals compared to what the research says, research, as we showed before, would equate to 292 kilowatt hours per month, but our measurements went up to 69.8 kilowatt hours per month, which is a very big difference. A lot of that can be attributed to AC, which can take about 100 kilowatt hours per month. That's something we couldn't measure. It has a unit like this. I also could be affected by the washers and dryers, another big our energy user that I was not able to measure. And also, we can assume that this number here takes into account the other lighting and building electricity use in total. Just when they do the research, they probably take the total energy use of the building and then divide by the number of rooms. So that can include lighting in the building, other building electricity use, the elevators, security systems, all of that kind of thing. And then here's a comparison of the average kilowatt hours per day based on research versus what I measured. The mini fridge was a big difference. I think my mini fridge is smaller, a little more energy efficient than the average. Everything else was relatively close. The fan was actually less, which was surprising to me, but I think the fan that we have is a little bit newer and more energy efficient than maybe the one that I found on research. and overall everything was pretty close. Another example of something different was the desk lamp, quite a bit lower. I think my desk lamp's a newer one. It's got an LED light. It's a lot more efficient. So some improvements for the future. We could definitely turn the fan off for 10 less hours per day when we're not in the room, for one, is a big thing. And also maybe when we're sleeping, we don't necessarily need it on. I could say 0.45 kilowatt hours per day, which is about as much as my fridge uses in the day. That'd be a 19.3% change for that device. Overhead light could be on for 3 less hours. We could use natural light, make sure the light's off when we're not in there. That would save 33.3% of the energy used for the light, or 0.06 kilowatt hours per day. And those two easy small changes would reduce by our daily energy consumption by almost 22%. And there's more that we could do as well, but those are just the main ones. So here's the references for my project, and thank you.